surprise, surprise, John likes turning pairs into bluffs. I'm more hesitant to turn pairs into bluffs.
Wait, I would actually say that I think like the pivotal point of the hand for me is more the turn than the river, even though this is where we face by far the biggest bet and have to make like the biggest money decision. Oh yeah, I'm the guy who turns pairs into bluffs on the river, so I'm very optimistic when I'm bluff jamming river.
Subscribe now to a front row seat for expert hand analysis and world-class cash game strategy. Coach Brad here, down to dive into some suited aces here on our favorite day of the week, which is Tuesday, always quite the tactical day. John, what's going on, sir?
Doing pretty good. This episode is stems from a recent request from one of our YouTube comments. So I think we should point out that if you also have any requests for episode themes or strategic themes to talk about, definitely leave them in the comments because we're paying attention to those, and who knows, we could pick your topic next for the next Tactical Tuesday episode.
Yeah, for a long time we just didn't care, but now we care more. We're paying attention. We're doing what we can to appease and grow the YouTube audience. So yeah, like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. So suited aces, everybody's favorite hand category that, you know, we 3-bet with and put lots of money in, and 5-bet with on occasion. So let's dive into these suited aces. Hand numero uno looks to be the ace 3 of spades. We got an open to $25 from the cutoff, starting this hand at about 125 big blinds effective. Our hero of heroes, who is a wolf that submitted this hand, 3 bets from the big blind to $110, and the cutoff calls. So we have the ace tray of spades. Everything's fairly normal. Flop is ace 10-4. Rainbow, no backdoor flush draw for our hero. We flop top pair with kicker. 225 in the pot, and I guess this is the first decision point to bet or not to bet. That's the question.
I've actually already seen this hand because it was submitted to me. So let me turn this question back to you. How do you like starting out with this in this situation?
I think I probably start out by betting. The board being full rainbow means that villain can have a lot of backdoor flush draws. They can have a lot of gut shots. They're going to call with a lot of 10x. So I think that I would start by betting, and almost certainly start by betting small, like, 1/3 or even a quarter, I think would probably be my sizing of choice.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think just immediately putting a whole bunch of hands into sort of like an indifferent spot, tons of gut shots we can start targeting here. In terms of worse hands, I think there's no 10x that's going to fold facing a third or a quarter. There's no 4x that's going to fold facing a third or a quarter. And then again, like I said, we expect all the king queens, king jacks, queen jack suiteds to all be doing some peeling. I think some of like the lowest equity hands that we can expect to call this third or quarter, depending on how small we go, probably are like the 3 straight 3 flushes. So hands like 8-9 suited, 5-6 suited, 5-6 of diamonds, 8-9 of hearts, like those types of hands probably start getting in the peeling range too. And that's really, really nice when we have a hand as strong as top pair.
All right. So looks like we do bet what is a quarter-ish. And we bet $66. The cutoff calls. Turn is the 8 of spades. There's 357 in the pot. Now I think our situation is such that probably going to check and try to play for 1 bet if possible. Because we bet so small on the flop, this is really key strategic takeaway here, is that we bet small on the flop so that villain would have a lot of gut shots, a lot of backdoors, a lot of pairs that would enable us to bluff catch more successfully than, if we say bet 75%, right? Because we bet 75%, they're going to fold a lot more of those hands and not going to have a ton of hands to bluff with. Whereas we started small, got called wide, now villains can have more hands to bet the turn versus our check. And ideally, if the turn checks through, then we're just going to be able to place a value bet on the river and get some value out of like 10x or maybe some pocket pairs or something like that. So we check. Villain bets exactly half pot. Just nothing really for us to do here but call. 8 of spades makes the board full rainbow, so no possible flush draw available. They're going to have queen jack. They're going to have king jack. They're going to have king queen. They're going to have, the 6-7 suited that is now like a double gut shot, and 5-6 suited, and maybe some other hands that we're not even really thinking about, right? Like king deuce of clubs or something like that. So
I don't know if we I wouldn't go that far down,
okay,
but
not king deuce, but I don't know. I guess queen nine's a gut shot. It's kind of hard for them to have hands that are not some sort of gut shot or
have like
straight
king nine of
on this
clubs,
board.
maybe if we.
Okay, king nine of clubs.
Yeah.
That's the one. All right, king nine. River's a deuce. So ace 10, 8, 4, deuce. We check, and now villain overbet jams. So actually pretty pivotal spot here on the river. You've seen this hand, but I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. I think their value bet threshold is going to be somewhere around like ace queen plus, probably.
Yep.
Which means that if that's the worst hand they're value betting, then like a lot of it's going to be two pair and sets. And the question is, getting close to 2-1, about 1.8 to 1. We need to win, 35, 36% of the time. Is 65% of the range ace queen or two pair plus?
It seems unlikely, and I would actually say that I think like the pivotal point of the hand for me is more the turn than the river, even though this is where we face by far the biggest bet and have to make like the biggest money decision. I think like the turn is like really important given like all the stuff that we talked about on the flop and all the 3 straight 3 flush hands that might call, all the just the straight gut shots that we there's 12 combos of gut shots, or actually there's more 16 combos of gut shots that call the flop. And so I think checking the turn is, I really like checking the turn for that reason, because I think like we can just expect a lot of those hands to start bluffing versus check. Some of them have like even improved their equity. Some of like the 3 straight stuff, like jack 9 is now improved to an open ender. Queen jack has improved to a double gutter. Hands like 5-6 and 6-7 have picked up either a gutter or double gutter themselves, or I guess just a gut shot themselves. So I think this 8 is actually kind of like a really good turn card to check, because I think we can start inducing bluffs from such a big portion of that gut shot range. And I think if we do expect them to go play aggressively with enough of those hands or most of those hands, then like there is no way that 65% of their range is going to be ace queen plus by the time they get to the river, just because there are so many brick straight draws or potential brick straight draws that we get to the river with. So I really think that the kind of the turn check in conjunction with the small size on the flop is really what sets up the spot for me. And I think I'd be pretty happy to call with ace 3. Yeah, okay, sometimes we're going to run into the occasional like ace queen, ace 10, pocket 10s, that type of hand, maybe like ace 4. But again, it's really nice that we have an ace. We block a whole bunch of those combos, or reduce a whole bunch of those combos when we have top pair ourselves. And then, like I said, there's just, compared to the number of value hands, there's just so many potential break straight draws that I think I'd be pretty happy to call here.
Yeah, I agree. There's just straight draws galore. So let's see what Hero did. They did, in fact, call, and villain shows up with the queen 8 of clubs, which I guess it's not the king deuce of clubs, but it's a hand that probably shouldn't be in their calling of a 3-bet range. And I think that villain did not play this hand so well. I mean, they actually could have just checked behind the river and probably beat queen jack and king queen and our jack 9s or our 6-5s. And
I think villain, like once they bet big on the flop, or once they bet big on the turn and got called, they sort of decided like, hey, like, okay, an 8 is just not going to be good enough, like to win in the spot.
I mean, they bet half pot. It's not like
Yeah. I also think like I don't know. I can kind of understand like I don't understand the pre-flop peel, but I can understand the sort of the feeling on the river that this guy must have because I would expect the big blind to, you know, mostly just continue barreling a lot of those gut shots that they're trying to maybe beat when they check back the river. Like I would just expect the big blind to do, you know, probably more barreling with a hand like Queen Jack than check calling. So I can sort of see how they feel that like an 8 is might not be good enough to check back on the river and might be highest EV path might just be to, you know, turn it into a bluff jam and try to fold out some of our weakest ace X, try to fold out some of our 10x, maybe hands like kings, queens, and jacks as well. You know, those hands would be in a much tougher spot on the river facing jam than again this hand that does discount some of their value combos or a lot of their value combos. The other thing that I'll say though is that like, you know, if they are peeling hands like this on the flop, even if they, you know, if they have hands like this, if they're turning pairs into bluffs, if they turn like a hand like 4-5 suited, for example, into a bluff, or 8-9 or 7-8, like a slightly more reasonable pre-flop peel into a bluff, then like I think that just makes our river call even more slam dunk, right? Because like presumably if they're bluffing an 8, then they're definitely bluffing the gut shots. And yeah, that just means that they have even more combos of bluffs that we beat on the river when we have some sort of ace X or
Yeah, this
bluff
was kind of
catcher.
my point as to why I don't like strategically jamming with Queen 8. Like it's just
Too much.
it's way too much. I mean, and I would imagine that like I don't know how long it took the Wolf in question to call this river bet, but I can't imagine it was very long. And yeah, like the top pair weak kicker has got to be one of the candidates that they're hoping to fold out at some frequency, and not being able to fold that out just makes it really tough. Like it's just clear that calling with top pair weak kicker strategically is going to absolutely mash them turning pairs into bluffs, and not just checking back and realizing their showdown value versus the queen jacks and the king jacks and the king queens that we might call with, or the jack nines, or the 5-6s. Like I think that we're not barreling those hands like every single time on the turn, so we do maintain those hands in our range as well. So yeah, well played, hero. Villain, more questionable, but surprise, surprise, Jon likes turning pairs into bluffs. I'm more hesitant to turn pairs into bluffs. That's wouldn't have it any other way. Um, Hand number 2 looks like we have an ace and a 6 of diamonds. We open the button to 3 big blinds. The small blind flats almost certainly represents the means that the small blind is white belt. Big blind squeezes, probably more reggy in nature. We 4-bet the ace-6 of diamonds. I think that's totally reasonable hand to 4-bet with. Tough to navigate post flop, so it's just most likely in this spot going to be a fold or 4-bet. I think with the ace-6, I like the ace wheels, but this one not so much. And also like the big blind squeezing versus the small blind flatting, I think is gonna up their 3-bet frequency a little bit. In practice, not in theory, but I think that regs tend to get after it after there's more money in the middle that they can win, more big
For sure,
blinds.
for sure. Yeah, I think that's a really good read on the big blind squeezing frequency. And like you, I'm a huge fan of these a6, a7, ace8, ace9 squeezes, or sorry,
Yeah.
4-bets.
Yeah. So there's 315 in the middle. This is played at 500 no limit. So Hero's got 475 behind. Don't again, we only have the one data point on the big blind, but likely a reg. Um, Club is king queen 4 with the queen of diamonds. They check. I assume hero bets a quarter. King high boards as the pre-flop 4-better tend to be pretty good for us in general.
Yeah, this is not even, got a backdoor nut flush draw, got a backdoor gut shot, we got an overcard. This is for bluffing a6 preflop. This is pretty good.
Yeah. So we bet 20%. I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, I like sizing down in this spot a little bit too. I think it's important to kind of keep future SPR in mind, especially when you're bluffing. I think so. Like most of the time I think we would expect to see like a quarter or a third pot as the C bet size in a 4-bet pot, but because the 3-bet made the squeeze size a little bit bigger than usual, that made the 4-bet size a little bit larger than usual. I mean, we were putting in 30 big blinds pre-flop, and that's going to be extremely rare. And because of that, I think you like as soon as you start doing that kind of stuff pre-flop, the next thing that you have to be mindful of is just making sure that you're not betting way too big on the flop and or using like the standard C bet sizes, because that's going to leave you with kind of few options on later streets, especially when you're bluffing.
Turn is the 7 of spades. So villain calls, king, queen, 7-4. We still have a6 of diamonds. Villain checks. And once again, looks like we've got 20%. So doing a good job of managing the SPR. My assumption is that we're probably going to be going for river jam after betting 20% and then 20%. Villain can, call the flop with basically all their pocket pairs that they 3-bet with, 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks. If they don't get, jacks or 10s in pre, they can call with queen X. They can call with gut shots. They can call with backdoor flush draws, backdoor straight draws. So just lots of hands that villain can peel with on the flop facing 20% because they're getting a good price and they should rightfully be peeling.
Would you expect the big blind to have some sort of check raise or like jamming range on the flop on a king eye flop, like a hand like Jack 10 suited, or like do you think that it's just like, hey, this is a king eye board and a 4-bet pot, I'm just pretty much not going to play any check raises? And
well, I think it being a king queen high board, especially like,
yeah,
we presumably have aces, we have ace king, we have kings, we have queens. They don't have any of those hands, so they will have like king queen for top 2, but yeah, I just think overall, like we have more of the nutted hands than they have, and it's just tough for them to raise like top 2 and then also call down, have a strong enough range to call down with facing bet jam. So like, theoretically speaking, I wouldn't expect them to raise very often at all. And I think if they did raise, then it's probably better for us, especially if we're planning on going bet, for them to remove value out of their range holistically. Just gives us more targets to shoot at and less danger of getting trapped when we go 3 streets with our bluffs.
Yeah.
Big blind calls. River pairs a 7, so king, queen, 4, 7, 7, no flush. They check. There's 6-13 in the pot, and despite betting 20% and 20% in this 4-bet pot, Hero still has about a half pot size bet remaining. What do you think? Stick it in?
Yeah, I think the thing that I'd want to talk about here is just like what better hands are we targeting on the river? I think just some of the immediate ones that come to mind are going to be hands like ace jack, ace 10. Don't think either of those combos are going to be folding, especially if they have backdoor spades to go along with them, are going to be folding to 20% on the flop or 20% on the turn. I think we can definitely start targeting like queen X on the river as well. Maybe some of their weakest king X, although that's like a little bit, I think that's a little bit optimistic.
That's a
I don't
little
know.
much.
Yeah,
Much.
maybe that's a little bit too. I don't know. Yeah, I'm the guy who turns pairs into bluffs on the river, so I'm very optimistic when I'm bluff jamming river.
8s, 9s, 10s.
Yeah, 8s, 9s, 10s, like
ace 4,
I don't know.
4, 5.
Yeah.
Bottom pairs. So yeah, I think there's and then also we're gonna get some like natural folds from like Jack 10 or 9-10 suited that calls a flop and calls a turn that we're actually beating. But yeah, I think there are more than enough better hands that we can target. I mean, we don't need to win much often. Our price to bluff is really nice, considering it's only half pot. So we rip, and it goes through. Let's see what did villain fold? They folded ace queen, so that's really good result. Really good. Like when they need to defend like 2/3 of the time, and they're folding second pair top kicker. I would imagine that makes the river bluff jam very profitable.
Yeah, especially if they have ace queen offsuit, in their peeling range pre-flop. I mean, that's like if they didn't have the offsuit combos, you know, that would reduce like their ace queen combos by quite a bit. But now they have, you know, whatever 9 combos of ace queen that we can target, plus all the other worst queen X, the queen jack suited, the queen 10 suited, and then yeah, the 10s jacks queens, or sorry, the 10s jacks 9s. I guess if they don't rip jacks free flop. So yeah, I think it's like really good to see them having like ace queen offsuit in the spot. I think that's just going to make our like our river bluff success frequency much, or just way good enough to justify doing this with our
Yeah,
bluffs.
For the listener, just think about it this way: in order for this bluff not to make money, the fact that they're folding ace queen, 66+% of their range needs to be top pair and on the river for them to call often enough facing our jam. And that just ain't happening. That is not any kind of reality of this spot. So if you enjoyed today's show, go ahead, click the like and subscribe button, comment with any questions that you might have below. For the podcast listeners, yeah, I think
get on YouTube.
Also like, subscribe, and check out YouTube, where you can see our beautiful faces every single Tuesday with some brand new content, as well as I have some new P&Es, and we're going to be releasing some theory and more conceptual strategic videos in the very near future. And that is all that I have for you this week here on Tactical Tuesday.
Well, see you next week.
See you next week. Don't miss out on our next great poker adventure. Hit that subscribe button and join the CPG family.
This is Tactical Tuesday on Chasing Poker Greatness with your hosts, Brad Wilson and Jon Chai. Coach Brad approved. Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.